Courtney, and welcome to this edition of The Pipeline, where we are refining the news that is important to you. Federal law generally prohibits exporting American oil, but that law violates the export clause, which provides that Congress can impose no tax or duty on articles exported from any state. Since 1974, Congress has imposed the functional equivalent of an infinite export tax on oil exports by banning them. The export clause in our Constitution says that Congress cannot do that. The export clause imposes an absolute prohibition on Congress laying any tax on articles exported from any state. Congress can impose embargoes if the purpose of that export restriction is national security. The Arab oil boycott of 1974 was the original justification for this federal embargo. But what was true in 1974 is not true in 2014. The federal oil embargo no longer deals with the peacetime emergency. Last month, the International Energy Agency announced that by 2015, the United States will overtake Russia as an oil producer, and by 2017, it will surpass Saudi Arabia. The IEA is the Paris-based advisor to 28 energy-consuming nations, including the United States, Canada, and most of Europe. The oil export ban now exists to keep domestic prices artificially lower. Senator Edward J. Markey argues that oil should be kept here in America to benefit our consumers, but that purpose defies the purpose of the export clause. Allowing oil exports will increase the incentive to find more oil domestically. It will increase the employment in the oil industry. It will lower the price worldwide of oil, which will reduce the oil income of foreign dictatorships that sponsor terrorism. And now, over to Mia for a report on some revolutionary new technology.
Shale gas wells aren't yet synonymous with a fresh glass of water. Former U.S. fighter pilot Jim Matheson thinks he can change that. The Oasis Water Inc. Chief Executive Officer oversees a startup specializing in water treatment solutions that can clean produced water. Companies have been challenged trying to cleanse a substance saltier than seawater and sometimes laced with radioactive materials that returns to the surface with fossil fuels extracted in fracking. Jim Matheson is confident that he can convert that economic and environmental issue into a freshwater resource. Oasis hopes to tap into an estimated $36 billion hydraulic fracturing market that transformed the U.S. energy industry by blasting saltwater sand and a chemical mix into rocks to free trap gas. Oasis technology works using membranes and the natural pressures of liquid to separate impurities from industrial waters. Their systems for oil and gas produced water can treat 4,000 barrels a day or 6 to 12 fracking wells worth. The treated water can then be returned to the water cycle or used for agriculture.
Hess Corp said it plans to spend nearly half of its 2014 exploration and production funds on unconventional shale resources, mostly in North Dakota. Hess announced that $2.85 billion of the $5.8 billion budgeted for exploration and production during the year will be spent exploiting shale reserves. $2.2 billion is earmarked for exploration of North Dakota's Bakken area. Hess said that as a result of lower well cost, decreased investments in infrastructure projects, they plan to operate 17 rigs versus 14 last year, and to bring 225 new operated wells online in 2014 compared to the 168 in 2013. The North Dakota Industrial Commission's Oil and Gas Division said in its monthly production report, most of the 29.1 million barrels of oil produced in November, the last full month for which are available, came from the Bakken Reserve area. Hess said another $550 million, about 20% more than last year, was designated for exploration and production in the Utica Shale Play, one of the premier natural shale plays and basins spread out over the eastern United States. That's all the time we have for today. Thanks for watching, and remember, we're drilling only for the relevant news and bringing it to you through the pipeline.